Welcome back to part 2 of how to make a wooden sword. Glad that you've returned. So last time we shaped the handle, we got the blade cut to length. We're going to start off tonight by cutting the tip of the blade to the profile that we'd like and getting that shaped. And then we're going to actually shape the blade. So we're going to begin by measuring the half point of the actual wood, and then we're going to come down about 2 1/4 is where our profile is going to begin. And then we'll draw that out, cut it out, and then shape it with the file. I work in metric, so this is 60 mils divided by 2, easy math, 30 mils. And for all of you that still speak the language of the king, that's 1 3/16 inches. And I'm going to come down, say 2 1/4, and then just square that line across, and that's going to be where my actual profile will begin. So it's going to begin here and end there. So if you want, this is your sword, so make it the way you want. If you want to just go with a straight line like that, pointy style, I'm going to go with more of a kind of a Viking-ish kind of point. And keep in mind, we're not actually trying to hurt anybody with this, so keep that in mind. Anybody know what I'm using here besides a pencil? Bonus points if you answer below. All right, there's my profile, rough profile. So now we're going to cut off the majority of this material with the handsaw, and then we'll shape it with the file. It's time to bring our old friend Stanley back to cut this out. Like we talked about in the first video, sharp teeth, fingers, no likey. So let's all take our time and be careful as we do this. So obviously this is a round profile. These saws do not cut round even though they bend. Don't try it because they just bind. So we're just going to make 2 cuts that are basically straight lines that intersect each other, and then the little nibs that are left over will file down. Time to cut. With this handsaw, you could probably start, and you probably can if you want to cut slowly and take things away, make a bit of a round edge. Let's just cut straight, and then we'll come back and true things up. And this is on, it's not a cross cut and it's not a rip right now. It's like right on the kind of angle of the two. So getting this thing started is going to be a little bit. Just like we said last time, don't get so frustrated that you start just reefing on this, because it's not going to do you or your thumb any good. It's just nice little strokes. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I still have to take my time. So just relax. So there you go, first little bit, and now we're just going to take a little bit more off of here. It doesn't have to be perfect, because Mr. File is going to tune this up just nice. I'm asking the blade to do something it doesn't want to do, so I'm going to kind of just pull it more of a rip for a second, just to get a little bit of a bite. One piece of wood will let you cut through it nice and straight pretty easily, and then you'll get another piece of wood with a different sort of grain pattern, and it will fight you all the way, all day. So don't get frustrated. Boom. Let's take a little bit more off here. Whatever we don't take off with the saw, we got to take off with the file. So let's just take a little bit more off of here. My saw wants to walk back up the wood when I pull it. Come on, little guy. Nice and easy. Boom. So we got a little bit there. That's nothing. we got the basic profile of the tip of the sword. Side 2. So that was 3 cuts to get that profile. Now, you're probably new at this, and I don't expect you to do it in 3 cuts. Let's just do it with 1 cut. We'll make 1 straight cut, get as much as we can with 1 cut, and then we'll shape the end of that with the file. So I don't want you to feel like you have to get it that good, and trust me, this is not that good. So 1 cut, shape it with a file, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to draw a path that's going to take the most material off and leave the least amount for me to file. And this looks like it. So it actually just grazes along. That's what we're going to try to take off. Little draws. Keep my finger out of there for camera purposes. And we're off. Same thing, when you get to the end, just kind of dial her down a bit. You don't want to tear a chunk out of the back of the wood by pushing too hard. So that's 3 cuts versus 1 cut. And there's not a whole lot left with 1 cut. So you're better off just to go with the 1 cut unless you want to get fancy and try nicking off that little piece. So once again, we have our flat bastard file. And we're going to start shaping first the side that we had the 3 cuts, and then we'll move over to the 1 cut side. So while you're doing this with the file, try to keep your file vertical and not canted one way or the other. This will get rolled over eventually with the file, but for now, let's just keep our edge nice and perpendicular to the face. That's pretty decent to start with. One thing you'll notice when you're filing, the file teeth get gummed up with sawdust. Gets loaded up, so just give it a tap. It'll clear it up. There's your basic shape. So we've got our shape of the tip of our sword. Looks very sword-like. And now we have to make the sword actually look swordish, because this whole 3/4 inch blunt edge just doesn't look like a sword. So we need to taper this wood back from the center point of our sword. So we're going to mark it, center it, and then file it back so that it has this taper look to it. And this will take a little bit of time. So we need to mark our sword at the center, and I've done that right there, which is approximately 9 millimeters or 3/8 of an inch, somewhere around there. It doesn't really matter if it's deadly. It's just going to give us something to go towards. So we want to mark this whole length of our sword with this mark. So instead of getting marks and running a straight edge, all I want you to do is just place your finger up against the wood and get it so it's comfortable. And then you just put your pencil on it. So your finger is going to act as a guide, and you're just going to hold your pencil exactly where that mark is, and you can do one of 2 things. You can push your sword and drag it along, or if you want to just drag your finger along the sword, which is probably what I'm going to do. So there's your mark, and then you're just going to drag. And now I'm pushing. You want to go up top again, same thing. Grabbing onto it. When you get to the tip, just run it over. Ba-doom. And I've still got my hand where it was. I'm just going to flip it over, start back at the tip again. There you go. There's your center mark. Our pencil line here represents roughly the center of the sword, just like this one. And now we need to know how far back we're going to make this angle come. So we'll do the same thing with our hand that we did on the side, to the same distance that I had here, the 9 millimeters or 3/8 roughly, and just transfer that to this side. And we'll just take this all the way down to the tip of the sword, like so, and then come back, and we'll run this down towards the hilt of the sword. We'll stop right about there because we're not going to go all the way. Might as well flip it over while we're at it and just run it up like so. And now we'll do the other way, which I'm going to have to come from this side, and we'll just draw that back. This takes practice, so if it's not working exactly for you right off the bat, don't freak out. You'll get it. Boom. Close enough. So from the back of our handguard, we're about 6 1/4 inches. So we'll do that same number for this sword. Go 6 1/4, and then we'll just square that around. And I think what we'll do is, before we start cutting, maybe we'll put a piece of tape on here just so I have a visual reference and I don't go past it. This helps me kind of remember where I should be, because sometimes I start thinking about other things while I'm doing tedious jobs, like what I'm going to have for lunch, something like that. Okay, there we go. From this point on, blade. This is the portion of the build that's going to separate the boys from the men, or the men from the boys, or the boys who are really dedicated to completing this job, because I'm not going to lie to you, there's going to be a lot of filing going on. That's why we normally use power tools, but we don't have power tools. We're going to use a file. So commit to it. Once you start, finish it. Trust me, it'll be worth it. And I'm going to sweat a bit doing this. Because we want to get this done tonight, and I'm using the Flat Bastard, which is a common file, it takes a while. And if I had like all night, great. But tonight we have to get it done. You know, production. We gotta go. So we're using a farrier file. It's meant for horseshoeing. This is meant for horses' toenails, but it's very aggressive, so it makes fast work of wood. So I'm not cheating. It's just that we got to get things going here. Much quicker. We're going to clean all that up with sandpaper when we're done. Well, our four edges have been filed down, and now we have a sword-like edge to both sides. And we're going to hit this with some sandpaper after, but for right now the basic shape is where it needs to be. And now all we have to do is the tip, and we'll set that up on the bench and we'll file that down as well. So the moral of this particular story here is if you can get yourself an aggressive file like that Farrier, your job's going to be much, much faster. Yes, you can do it with the flat bastard. It will still cut, but it's just a slower cut. This thing removes material fast. So if you have this, don't get frustrated. You can still do it. But if you can find an old Farrier rasp or file, yeah. All right, so our tip is rough shaped. As you can see, it looks more sword-like than it did before. And that's good, because that's what we're going for. I gotta say, the Farrier rasp, this is honestly the first time I've used it, because we brought it down from my sister's house. My son, who's 17, wants to make it into a knife, because you can do that. Check out YouTube. I don't think I'm gonna do that, though, because this thing works so good. I'm going to keep it around for woodworking. Massive material removal. If you can find one, great. If not, get a file that has the most aggressive tooth pattern that you can find, because that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. We're going to wrap it up for tonight. We've made some good progress. We've shaped the tip of the sword. We've got the profile of the blade. It looks like a sword almost now. And next time we'll work on the handguard. If you're working on this at home right now or you're thinking about it, don't stress out about doing it. You can do it. You can do hard things. Just keep at it. Have some patience and you will come up with something that you'll be proud of. Until next time.